Welcome to Week 4, Fantasy Football Stardom Situm, Word with G Style. I'm your host, Greg Larnard. And if you had Larry Donnell in your lineup this week, you are a smart man. If you picked him up early on, figuring, okay, Eli Manning likes his tight ends. Good for you, because he had 3 touchdowns, a monster game last night. Good for you. I know a couple of my friends were texting me yesterday saying how happy they were to have Larry Donnell. I actually tried to trade for Larry Donnell, get this, Chris Ivory for Larry Donnell straight up. Unfortunately, Pat Shaughnessy wouldn't do it, so I'm stuck with Ivory. He got the 3 touchdowns of Larry Donnell, and I'm stuck with Brandon Myers as my tight end because Kyle Rudolph went and got hurt. But let's get to the stardoms and situms. First, let's go with the stardoms. I've got Anquan Boldin against Philly. The first 3 games this year, he's been targeted 9 times, 6 times, and 6 times. So his targets are high. Kaepernick's looking for him. He's very, very reliable. We know this going back to his Cardinal days, to his Baltimore days, and same story here in San Francisco. Philly's also giving up the 43 points per game to wide receivers. That's the second most in the NFL. So this is gonna, I'm feeling this game's gonna be a shootout. So get Anquan Boldin in the game. He's very reliable. Kaepernick, I think, is not going to look to run it as much. He's going to look to give the ball off to his weapons. He's got to get Anquan Boldin, Carlos Hyde, and Frank Gore going. That's my first starter. Second, a rookie, a phenom, who's kind of come out of nowhere. I guess he was touted to begin the year, and people were looking at this Carolina receiving corps as who's going to step up. There's really no number one, and it's been Kelvin Benjamin. He's had high targets the first 3 weeks of the season, whether it be with Derek Anderson or Cam Newton. 8 targets the first game, 8 targets the second game, and 11 targets he went off last game against the Steelers. They got beat pretty bad, but he had a very, very good game. He's very valuable in PPR leagues. Baltimore is also giving up 14 catches to wide receivers this year, so his targets, obviously as the number 1 wide receiver, are going to be high. And that's the most. They give up the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And like I said, he's emerged as Carolina's number 1 receiving target. So go out and start Kelvin Benjamin this week. Now let's get to my 2 situms. It's going to be 2 running backs in the same game. First, we've got Chris Johnson on the Jets side going up against the stingy Detroit defense. They've given up the 5th fewest points allowed to running backs. And Chris Ivory has been very effective for the Jets. More effective than Chris Johnson. They're saying that he's running hard, he's running mean, he's running fast. This guy is a monster. When Chris Ivory gets going, he looks really, really good this year. Chris Johnson, just very lackluster to start the year. And frankly, I'm a little surprised. He's durable, he can play all the time, he can be explosive at times. But the better runner has clearly been Chris Ivory. So Chris Johnson, you gotta take a seat, especially against the Detroit defense. And when you're splitting carries with Ivory, if the Jets get down in this game, there's no telling to how many looks or touches he's even gonna get. Because they might put Bilal Powell in there to block for Geno Smith. And secondly, the other running back in this game, Joique Bell. Now, a stingier defense against the run is the Jets defense. They've only given up, get this, 35 rushing yards per game to running backs. Now, I don't include the quarterback, just to running backs. 35 yards a game. That's unbelievable for a defense. And we know Rex Ryan, his defense is always going to be good. It's on the other side of the ball that we worry about. Comes with Geno Smith, Eric Decker. But back to Joique Bell. The Jets defense, they've given up the 2nd fewest. Detroit, we said, has given up the 5th. The Jets have given up the 2nd fewest points allowed to running backs so far this year. And again, Joique Bell is in a committee backfield with Reggie Bush, who is more explosive. He's better out of the backfield catching the ball. And they're going to split snaps and split carries and split time to be effective. That's going to hurt Joique Bell, especially going up against the front 7 of the New York Jets. This has been your Word with G, Week 4, Fantasy Stardom Situms. I'm Greg Larnard.